We touched on cashless yesterday. Why is the UK so slow to adopt it, basically, while events in Europe and the States seem to be thriving without paper money? And I'm delighted to introduce Duco Smit from Tappit to tell us 10 things we hear about going cashless. There's Slido options for questions, so do get involved with that and do use your headphones because it helps some of the noise. But Duco.
All right, thank you. So good morning, everybody. Nice that you're here. I'm happy to start this day today at the Festival and Future stage. My name is Duco Smit. I'm from Tappit. I'm CCO, and we're going to tell you something about. We keep hearing about going cashless. The initial idea of this presentation was to tell you how you can become cashless within 30 days. But when we created that deck, we realized that's 2 slides, and that will be maybe a bit boring. So we decided that we are going to talk about 10 things or maybe 10 myths we hear about going cashless. So the first one, and that's actually one which I've heard a couple of times yesterday at our stand, is we already contactless. So why would we go cashless? What's the difference? Well, the difference between a contactless and a cashless transaction is that with contactless, as an organizer, you know something is bought at a certain moment. But with cashless, you know who bought what at which moment and at what location. So the big difference between contactless and cashless is data. First of all, the amount of data you are allowed to gather with contactless is very limited because it's a transaction between the buyer and the bank, and that's protected, that information. However, if you go cashless and you use a system like Tappit, you're able to gather all this information. And an example for is with contactless, you know that somebody bought a beer and somebody bought a pie at a moment on your event. But with cashless, you know that I bought a beer and I also bought a pie and maybe also a cocktail. So with that data, for next events, you can combine that and maybe place the cocktail bar closer to the pie bar, or just saying something. Another example, and that's more an anecdote I'd like to tell, is what you can do with this data. I'm from Amsterdam, as you might hear from my accent. My brother is a big fan of the local football club, Ajax, and he is a very loyal fan. He goes to every home match for over 15 years already, and he literally never got approached by his club with an offer or with something personal. You know, he gets a mail every year, do you want to renew your season ticket, and do you want to participate in this survey, and that's it. You know, so he's going every time, every match, even if it's plus 25 degrees or minus 5 degrees, and he never gets welcomed by the club. So what if the club gets all this data from about my brother in this case, and he's coming to the match, and it's minus 5 again, and he enters the stadium, and the club sends him a message and says, Ivar, that's his name, great you're back, you've been here for the last 10 matches, it's freezing cold, you know what? Go to the bar, have a coffee on us, because you're a loyal fan. That small gesture, which will cost the club 50 cents for a cup of coffee, will go a long way, because he will probably post it on his Instagram, he will post it on Facebook, he will tell his friends, and he will be a fan for life. So that's another example what you can do with data. So another myth we've been hearing is that it must be very hard to implement, which was the original topic of today's presentation, that it can be done in a very short time. Actually, for you as an organizer, it's a couple of steps you need to take. First of all, and that's probably the most important one, you need to decide you want to go cashless. That's of course where it starts. If you've decided that, you contact, obviously, Tappit as the best cashless provider globally, and you schedule a meeting with one of my team members, and we do a meeting at your site, and we gather your requirements. What do you want to get out of becoming cashless? And we schedule our system around those requirements. And then the third important step is that you need to create team buy-in. You know, if you are the owner of an event and you decide you're going cashless, you're ahead of the rest of your team. These guys are used to either collect tokens or maybe collect cash at the event, and they now need to understand that they will use devices. So you need to explain them, you need a team buy-in, and then you need to start the communication, of course, towards your team, but also towards your visitors in order to go, that you are going cashless. The next steps are building the solutions, that's on us, training your staff, which is also on us, and implement the system on the event, which is also on us. So for you as an organizer, it's not that big of a deal to take the step to go cashless. But how long would it take? Not that long actually. We are able to do it in a couple of weeks. I do say I don't want to do it in a couple of weeks. I would like to have a bit more lead time in order to prepare everything we need to do. What a nice example is last stand in Dubai. There was a fan event around the Football World Cup last June, July. And we got in touch with them literally 3 weeks before the first match. And within those 3 weeks, we started negotiating with them and we decided to go for it, or they decided to go for it. And we were able, in these 3 weeks, to set up our cashless solution for 26 events, which were the screenings of the matches for over 30,000 attendees. And we only got the menus for the readers 1 week before the first match. So even for an event which runs over 30 days and gets 30,000 plus attendees, we're able to set that up in 2 to 3 weeks. So for anybody who is considering cashless and now thinks, well, it's too late, the season is almost starting already, because that's also what I've heard at the stand yesterday. Yeah, my event is in May, June, July, I will be too late. No, you won't, because if we have a month lead time, it's enough to set you guys up to become cashless. So, would it be a lot of work by your own IT team? That's also something we hear. Again, not really. It is not a lot of work. The technical work which needs to be done, because there is technical work which needs to be done, well, that's done on our end, right? What you need to do is you need to decide what you want us to build for you, right? So, do you want your visitors to be able to top up online? I think you will, so we will create a portal for you, branded in your own style, where people can top up. Do you want people to be able to cash out after the event? If so, great, we create the portal and we enable your visitors to get their money back after the event. Do you want to sell credits together with your ticketer? You know, for example, you're working with Eventbrite or another ticketing company, you can sell a ticket including credits. Then we will connect our API to the Eventbrite's API to be sure that when you enter the event, you get your wristband and the money is already topped up on that wristband, right? And maybe the most piece of work for you is to send us an Excel file or a text file with the menus we need at the bars, and we need to implement that into the readers. So the technical part is for you to think about what you want, but the actual building is on us. So it's not a major piece of work. My visitors don't want cashless. That's also something which I we sometimes hear. Well, if you simply Google on cashless, you will get literally thousands and thousands of stats about cashless. And I think the overall topic is that the world is becoming a cashless place quite rapidly. According to your own UK Finance, By 2026, almost 80% of all transactions done in the country will be cashless, which is probably also driven by the fact that another stat is that every month 300 cash machines are disappearing from the UK, right? So it's increasingly difficult to actually get your hand on cash from a cash machine. And if you look at Scandinavia, for example, and this example is Sweden, but actually all the Scandinavian countries are pretty far with this already. Less than 1% of all transactions is actually still a cash transaction. And I think, well, I believe this is where the world is going to, a paper or a cash-free country. But even we think a more interesting stat is part of the survey we conducted under 800 festival goers. And if you go to our website, you can download the full report. One of the stats was that over 70% of all the people we surveyed preferred to be cashless. You know, you have no wallet, you can't lose your money, you can get a refund back after the event. There are so many benefits for an attendee that they actually want it. It's more the mindset of the organizer which needs to change into taking the leap of taking the step into becoming cashless. Also a conversation I heard yesterday a few times, well, the technology is not solid enough yet. I think everybody has a few examples in their head of an event which went cashless and something happened. The internet went down, the system failed, there's this one big festival, probably everybody knows, I won't mention it, here in the UK, which keeps popping up in conversations. But that was 4 years ago, right? In those 4 years, a lot happened. The technology improved, internet on location improved, the techniques of the different, not only of tappit, but the different cashless providers improved. So we are in a better state. The simple answer to this question is, it's wrong. The technique is there. You know, we have a lot of references, and I won't mention them all, and you can find much more on our website as well, but I will name a few. The Dubai Rugby Sevens, for example, that starts at November 30 this month. That's 110,000 visitors over 4 days in Dubai. This event is 100% cashless. We did it as well last year, and there was no failure at all. In order to process that amount of visitors and transactions, your technique needs to be robust, and it is. Right, another example is Birmingham. Birmingham City, the full stadium, every bar they have is cashless. So with your season ticket, you can enter the stadium, but you can also tap every bar for your pie, for your beer, for your jersey, for your scarf. Anyway, so that's 20,000 plus visitors every match, and again, it works flawlessly. You know, and the fact that, and that's what I'm really proud of, a few weeks ago we closed a multi-year deal with Manchester City. If a club that big and with that much influence doesn't believe the technique is solid enough to deploy it, they would never start working with a company like ours. So the technique is enough. It's more, again, the mindset of the owners of a venue or of a festival that we need to take this step. The next one, sure, it does work, but I need internet, right? Because without internet, it doesn't work. Well, not really. Our system can work offline, and it will work offline, but you can also use internet. And the difference is, if you work offline, we implement our closed loop system. The data of the transaction is stored on devices and on the wristband. You don't need internet to sync that. However, if you do have internet, all the devices sync to our database and will give you the reports you want to during the event. So that's of course the big benefit of having internet online. If internet drops in and out, also fine. We can sync with our database every 10 minutes, so you will still have almost real-time reportings during your events. But if you need to or if you want to, you can work offline. And a funny story, at least I thought it was funny. In May, I believe, this year, we did a boutique festival in Vietnam, Equation. It was 2,500 people over 3 days in a location I cannot pronounce, but it was a campsite, out literally in the middle of nowhere. And we did, of course, we deployed our offline solution. You didn't even have reception with your phone. So the customer said, I want to go cashless, but I do want to have the data in between the days. But without internet, how is that possible? So at the end of each day, we loaded all the devices into a car, drove 50 minutes towards the closest, it was a university. We drove to a university, synced all the devices with our database, downloaded the reports for the organizer, drove back to the campsite, gave the report to the organizer, and we gave them the insights they wanted about the day before. So that still is an option, and I think it's a pretty funny solution to still get the data even when you're offline. Another thing we sometimes hear is you're touching my money, you're controlling my money. Well, we aren't. Every transaction which is done between a visitor and the cashless system goes straight to you, the organizer. So if you top up online as as a visitor, the money you spend with your credit card goes into your bank account. If you are at the location of the event and you do a PIN or a credit card transaction, that money goes into your bank account. If you pay cash on the location, that money goes into your cash drawer. And even if you want to connect it to your ticketing company, for example, I'm sure you will be able to get an advance payment by your ticketing provider. So also that money goes to you. So the truth here is we don't touch your money. It goes straight to you. Myth number 9, there is no benefit to us. Well, this is of course a slide where I can talk for an hour and a half about, which I won't. If you want to join us at stand 306, and me or one of my colleagues will explain you much more. But a few of the benefits are here, and it starts, I think, with using the data, right? The examples I mentioned in the beginning, you start to understand your customer and you start to improve your experience, right? The example I had from my brother, how delighted are you as a visitor that you are personally engaging with your club or with your festival, that you get a freebie or anything. It doesn't have to be a freebie even, but personal interaction that will create a loyal fan or a loyal visitor probably for life. Another example is that if you are still handling cash, and you guys are the festival organizers, presumably, on a 2 or 3 day event, easily there can be 300, 400, 500,000 pounds being around on site, which needs to be processed. And part of that disappears. Maybe a part is stolen, creative bookkeeping, I don't know, but a part will disappear. If you are cashless, that doesn't exist. The money is all digital, the money is all safe, and on top of that, you don't have to count or to weigh your tokens, you don't have to count your cash, and your reconciliation reports are much faster because they are automatically generated by our system. So it saves you time, and we all know time is money. But the biggest and most important benefit to any organizer who is using any cash system is the increase in revenue. It is increased by many ways. One way is, there are less queues because a cashless transaction is much faster than cash, much faster than tokens, faster than contactless because contactless needs a connection with a satellite or internet in order to check your balance. So you can do more transactions in the same time, less queuing. And on top there are more ways to increase, and our average increase per visitor, per event in spend is 22%. And before I started at Tappit, our CEO told me that number, and I thought, yeah, sure, yeah, that's a nice pitch towards me, 22%. And when I saw the numbers, when I stepped into this company, it's actually true. And I can imagine that it's maybe hard to believe, but you guys will probably all have relations or acquaintances or friends who are also in event business who might do cashless. And I can guarantee that anyone you ask about the increase in spend between the visitors before cashless and after cashless will be somewhere between 15 and 25% increase per visitor. And that's the biggest benefit of being cashless. You will just earn more money. So if you want 80 more examples of benefits, again, join us at the stand. And I will leave it with the final myth, and that's, will Kenya be president? Well, I don't know. He's certainly trying. Last week he said in 2024 he's going for it, but I don't know what's going to happen there. So that myth is not busted by myself. So I forgot to mention Slido. Are there any questions?
I've got a quick couple for you. From a punter's perspective, from the consumer side,
Yeah.
with a closed loop system without the internet, how can you top up your wristband or whatever? Does that create problems?
No, yeah, that means that you need to top up with cash. If you're fully offline, you need to top up cash. You take the cash from the visitor and you upload that on the wristband. And that uploading on the wristband is our system. But if you want people to pay with credit card, to pay with a debit card, you would need internet.
Yeah.
Or another option is everybody can only top up online before the event when you're at home. And then when you come to the festival area, you show your ticket, which is entrance and 50, 100, 200 pounds. We scan that ticket, we transfer it to a wristband, and you use that money on the ground.
The other thing is there was some bad press in terms of rebate of people getting their money back.
Yeah.
And that people were saying, well, we'll offset it to next year's event or whatever. But people, is that solved now with Tappit? Can you get money back to people that's unspent?
Yeah, you can. It depends on what you want as an organizer. You know, there are certain organizers who really want to maximize that profit and do the same like with tokens, right? So when you come home and you wake up, you've got 4 tokens, they're worthless. So that money is gone. So if it is an organizer, that's your theory, you can say no refunds. But most organizers, and that's part of your increase in spend, they will communicate. So you will have 7 days, 14 days after the event, then you can get your money back. And the big benefit there is that people will say, well, I can get my money back anyway. You know what? Instead of 20 pounds, I'll spend 50 pounds at once, and I will get it back anyway. And after 4 beers, you know, that money is gone in your head, and you will spend that 50 pounds until it's gone. And that's a big part of the increase in your spend. So we always advise to offer that you're able to cash out after the event, because A, this happens, what I just mentioned, but also if there's a £5 or £4 left, people don't care. You know, they will leave it as is.
And lastly, what sort of resistance are you meeting from promoters when you pitch this idea?
Sorry.
What are promoters saying to you that they don't like about it now? If you're talking to the bigger guys in the UK market, why are they saying no at this stage?
Well, pick any of the 10 myths I just explained, right? It's is it working? My audience is not ready. I don't have enough time. I think those are the 3 major responses we're getting, and I hope I just busted those myths. At least I try to, but those are the most frequent comments we get.
Yeah. Thanks very much.
All right. Any questions from the audience? Yes, sorry. How much will cashless cost me as an event organizer? Good question. There are a few business models that we have. It's always a custom offer which we do to you, and there is a business model where we charge you for the lease and the setup and the rental of the devices. That's part of our business model, and there is a part of the business model which is that part of the transactional revenue, so not the top-up revenue, but the revenue which is actually spent, a percentage of that goes to us, and we can split part of the breakage. Those three parts of revenue streams are available, and it can be one of them, it can be all of them, it can be a combination, it's whatever you want to. But the most important fact is that whatever amount you spend on a system like tappit, your return on investment will be factor X times that amount which you're paying for us. What's nice here, and it's not live yet, I think, Maria, I'm looking at my colleague, there will be a ROI calculator on our website, I think between now and a few weeks. So if you go to our website and you fill in your event details, so the number of days, number of visitors and average spend, it will calculate roughly the increase in revenue you will get if you go cashless. All right, well, thank you very much for being here. And again, if you want more information, visit us at the stand. Thank you.